Hey guys, we're back. Back with another video, I guess. I've been messing around with my microphone settings, trying to get the audio just right, and it turns out that coming back home from college for winter break, I actually forgot my microphone in college. So, I guess the audio is going to be a little quiet with this video, maybe a little buggy at times because I'm just using my laptop microphone, but let's give it a shot anyways. Let's see how this video goes. Today, I wanted to make a more personal video, I guess, talking about feelings. Now, feelings are very important. I think that there's kind of three sorts of people in the world. There's, the doers who mainly they just do. I can't really speak for them because I'm not really one of them. I struggle with doing. There's the thinkers who spend a lot of their time thinking about situations and deliberating on them, trying to make the best decision before they do something. I definitely fall into that camp a bit. But the way that I live my life and the thing that dominates my decisions and my motivation and my impetus to do things in life, a little bit of hair flying around, is my feelings. I'm a feeler. That's the kind of type I am. The Pokemon type, if you will. I'm a feeling type. And, I live my life through my feelings. They determine everything that I do in life. They determine what major I pursue in college, the friends I keep, the decisions I make in my relationships, what kind of content I want to put out there. They determine everything. Everything that I do in life is led by my feelings. And that's good. That's who I am. And I've actually, over the course of my senior year of high school, and then that summer before college, and then during my first semester in college, my first 3 months, I've actually lost my feelings, which that's a really weird thing to say, right? Because you always feel. You can't really stop feeling. So how does one lose their feelings? Well, we'll have to do a little bit of catching up. Story time. So, I've always been someone to always, I don't know if I would necessarily say love, because sometimes going through your feelings is not very fun. It can be very sad, very, very angry, very agonizing at times. It can also be very joyful, depending on what you're feeling. But, sorting your feelings out and going through them is not always the most fun thing in the world. But I've always been the person to go through my feelings and try and figure them out. I'm going to turn my music that I'm listening to back on here. It always helps for me to have music as I talk about things. It helps me keep going. So anyways, I've always been the kind to work through my feelings and sort them out. In high school, whenever I was feeling a lot of things, going through a tough time, maybe it was a breakup, for instance, or I was really struggling playing the trombone, or I got a bad result on my all-region auditions or something. I would always go for a walk outside, whether it was day or night, after school, on a weekend, on a break, whenever. I would just go outside, typically at night, because that's when, your feelings hit you the strongest, they hit you the hardest. So I go for this walk, and I would just talk to myself. I would just walk and talk to myself, and, if I brought my phone, I have this app called Smart Recorder. It's just a voice recording app, because I don't really have voice notes on my phone. I have this, big chunky Motorola, and it doesn't have all these fancy new features, but, I've dropped it a lot and it still works, so I love it. But anyways, I would bring my phone, record, just me talking to myself on there for like an hour at a time. And I got something in my eye here. But over the course of several days, I would sort through my feelings. I would go outside and go for a walk and figure out my feelings. And I would never really shy away from doing that. If I felt hard things, if I felt tough feelings, I would always go out there and figure out my feelings. However, throughout my senior year of high school, I was still doing that. I was still going outside and figure out my feelings, because I was, there's a lot going on. I was trying to figure out what college I was going to go to, and doing all these auditions and facing the results of those. A lot of rejections, and feeling pretty bad about all that, but also some great things. I got into UNT, which was great because it's such a big music school, right? And I also got into Berklee College of Music over in Boston, and that was really exciting because at the time that was, that was a really big thing for me. Could probably even say that was my dream school. I wanted to get into film music and media music, and they had a degree plan just for that. So that was really cool. That was epic right there. So senior year of high school, there's a lot of stuff going on. I was very busy, and I kind of... But you have to forgive that knocking. My dad is working on the shower. It's leaking, so... have patience, please. But, yeah. Sorry, I'm a little distracted here. I haven't been recording for... Yeah, I've taken a long break from it, so I'm trying to get back in the swing of things. But in my senior year of high school, I was... There was a lot going on. I was doing a lot of stuff, still super involved with band, and I was trying to plan and organize a trombone recital with all the trombones, predominantly the seniors, showcasing the seniors, because we had a killer senior trombone class. But, that was busy. I was messaging all these people, telling everyone when rehearsals were, messaging people individually to see if they could come to rehearsals, and it was a big deal. It was a big deal. It was a lot of work, a lot of spreadsheet stuff, and I was working on all that. So basically, I was busy between organizing trombone recital, working through college things, and I was actually forming a new relationship during that time. I was very busy. And I think that was when my mind I started subconsciously numbing my feelings. I was slowly starting to spend more time on the internet, on things like YouTube, phone games, video games, staying up really late. I'm sure we've all done that before. And just really just watching a lot of YouTube shorts and Instagram reels and those sort of things. And I'm sure we all know that those don't really do anything for us, that short form content. And I think the reason why I got into it was because it was easy. It was a lot easier than... I was already working on so many things, going through a lot of stuff, that I kind of didn't really have the time to go deal with every feeling that I had all the time. Not that I was going outside and talking to myself for every single feeling I had, but, all the big stuff. And, of course, when you're doing more things, there's more big stuff that you need to handle and that you need to deal with. And I just didn't have the time. I had to practice and organize and plan and frantically, write down my college applications before the deadlines. And I even turned in some late, but through some of the colleges would extend their deadlines, and so I got lucky in that regard. But yeah, it was a very busy time, and as I had less time to sort through my feelings, I started numbing them through YouTube Shorts and other quick, easy online content, quick dopamine hits and whatnot. And I started numbing my feelings instead of feeling them. And that was the beginning of that process. I still had time then, back in high school, here and there, to go think about my feelings and go talk them out with myself. But that began the process of, over the past year, I've slowly started numbing my feelings. Over the summer, it was a pretty low-key summer. I didn't really do anything, as most of my summers in high school went. There was one big thing, though. I did go on a road trip with my friends at that point, but didn't really work out because it turns out that they were not the best people for me to go on a road trip with. So I ended up, we were in Utah over at Zion National Park, and it was a beautiful place, but I decided that I had to take a bus back to Dallas, and it was about 55 hours, I think, because, the bus would make stops and pick people up, drop people off. I was asleep for basically all of it, but, we would make stops and go to Arby's and get food and things like this, and knocking is really annoying me, but I can't help it. And what else? I had this kind of layover thing at like a bus station for about 3 hours. I was lucky I had a short layover. But yeah, I mainly slept on the bus, and it was a long time. So I went through that whole ordeal, and then I think I came back from that, and I did try and figure it out. Since it was the summer, I had time to figure things out, but it was also really hard and really heavy. Because you expected a road trip with your friends to be fun, right? And just be an overall good time. But to have to leave that, it was, to face the fact that they weren't really the friends that I thought they were, it was hard. It was really hard. And I think that was another, because I never had something that hard happen before. Maybe just one other thing. Probably my first ever breakup I went through. It's turning into a heavy video, but it's a heavy topic. We're going to get to the point in a second, but... So that was another thing that happened. It was very big and extraordinarily heavy. So my brain had a lot more work to do than it did in the past. And I definitely started playing more video games in the summer, partly because it was the summer, but partly because, there's just a lot of stuff going on in my head at the time that I kind of didn't want to deal with anymore. Because I was also dealing with trying to prepare to go to college, get all my stuff ready in the dorms, get all my stuff ready to put in the dorm, college auditions for placement in ensembles, and all these various things. Trying to figure out if I wanted to double major in psychology and all so much stuff. And so again, we see a common theme between these two time periods here. We see a theme of being busier, being quite busy, and also having a lot of heavy stuff to deal with, getting ready for college and doing those applications and the physical getting ready part. That is a lot to figure out because it's a new thing. And then we also see things relationship-wise with friendships that kind of went south, new relationships and endings of them, because in the summer my relationship also ended. So a lot of heavy stuff, a lot of new things, and just a lot of things going on in general, because those time periods of my life were very busy. And speaking of busy, I then went off to college for 3 months. Can't believe it was 3 months. 3 months seems like a short time, but also a long time. The perception of time there is very tricky once you get off to college, because it's like so much happens, and it feels like so much time has passed. But also 3 months, it's like it's only 3 months. Not a lot of time has really passed. So, a lot to decipher on that front as well. But if we want to talk about busy, college is a beast. It is so busy. You're running around. Man, as a music major, I think I had 5 or 6 classes, because I also had an English class. And you have to practice for all these ensembles, and I was doing a music composition degree, which I was very happy I was doing. There was just so much work for it, is the thing. Because you have to spend so much time composing the music. You're not just practicing for your solos and your ensembles and such. You are writing music. So on top of that, on top of your studying for your music classes, and you have to practice for those as well, because music is not really something you can memorize by normal studying, like English or science, etc. Science is very difficult. I don't know if I could be a STEM major. But music, you have to practice. You have to practice it. That's the only way to learn it. So I have to do all this practicing for my classes, practicing for the ensembles and the solos that I'm doing. And on top of that, you add another time commitment, another huge time commitment where you have to compose a piece. And that takes a long, long time. And then on top of that, we also had to analyze music that really stretches the boundaries of your listening experience, and really stretches the boundaries of what music is. And so naturally, that's going to take a lot of time to figure out. And then we also had to write down all of our compositions by hand, with a ruler, and making everything precise and exact. And we had this big textbook, which is essentially an encyclopedia of notation guidelines. Whew, it was a doozy, I'll tell you that. It was a big deal. Big deal. And you're trying to manage doing laundry on your own, and getting food on your own, making sure you're getting to places in time before the dinner closes, and then the food places close. You're trying to find new friends, potentially navigating new relationship situations, new, more challenging coursework than you've ever had before, new expectations from others and that you put on yourself. So, college is so much, and being that busy, I would have days where I was waking up at 7 a.m., or honestly 7:30. I had 8 a.m. classes, but I did not get a lot of sleep. I was waking up at 7:30 a.m., and my days would frequently go, with class commitments and ensembles and such. My days would typically go 7 a.m. to either 5 p.m., or on Tuesdays and Thursdays, more like 9 p.m. And that's a long day. That is a really long day. And when you're just that busy, you don't have time to feel. At first, I tried feeling. I tried thinking and feeling and talking to myself, going on walks, all the same stuff that I would do. But I was just so exhausted from my days, and I did not have the time. I had to spend it on homework, or practicing, or composing, or handwriting my scores, and my parts. And it was so much. I did not have the time to work on myself. Well, I was working on myself so much with my education, I didn't have time to work on the inside, the inner parts of myself, the feelings, and everything that made up who I am. I mentioned before that I lead my life through my feelings. It guides everything from my social interactions, relationships, my work, and my decisions about my professional career, what direction that takes, what direction my life takes. And that's who I am, that's how I operate. But I couldn't get in touch with those feelings because I was just so busy, and so much stuff going on. And that was kind of the final step in the process of numbing myself and numbing my feelings, because in college I got into a very long habit, and quite a bad habit, honestly, excuse me, of scrolling. I would scroll YouTube Shorts for so long. My screen time would be pretty big. It'd be pretty long every day, and I would struggle with completing my assignments, partly because they were so overwhelming, but also partly because when I would sit down at the library or in the practice room to practice piano, practice singing for my ear training class, my oral skills class, and or practice trombone, any of these things, I would have to pull up things on my computer, and naturally what's on my computer is a really easy way to access all the entertainment you could ever want in the world, and that's through YouTube. But did I actually want to watch something meaningful, like an anime I enjoyed, or a documentary that I was interested in where I learned something, or a really engaging movie like Lord of the Rings, for example? No, because I knew I was supposed to be working. So instead, what I wanted was something easy, 5 minutes, it's 12:55, I'll start working at 1. Because, that makes a difference, right? That changes everything. And so I would watch 5 minutes of YouTube, watch some self-improvement video that I thought I wanted to listen to, but I really didn't need, or I couldn't care less about. Some YouTube shorts, some like Young Sheldon clips, Simpsons clips, whatever, random things, just funny cat videos, whatever would pop up on my feed. But not music content or anything that was good for me, just entertainment, just funny things, fun stuff. And I would just, those 5 minutes would turn into like 2 hours, whether it was late at night and I was in my room, or, this whole 2-hour study session I planned at the library or in a practice room turned into like 5 minutes because I just didn't do anything. I was scrolling my entire like all of my time away. So naturally I became behind, I got more stressed, and on top of that, I was already doing way too much. I was involved in way too many classes, too many ensembles, too many commitments. I had to drop one ensemble, unfortunately, in the middle of the year. But I just had to. I just had to. I was way too busy. So, on top of the stress just from being in the classes, I had too many to begin with, and too many outside commitments, ensembles, playing commitments, practicing commitments, things like this. Too many new things, too many things in general, which leads to too much stress, not enough time to do the work, which also contributes to the stress, and since you don't have a lot of time, you don't have time to sort out the feelings. And for 3 months, I didn't have time to sort out my feelings. So essentially, I was just numbing myself for 3 months. Because, here's the thing, your feelings, they don't wait for you to have time to deal with them. They come at you and kind of, they make themselves known, no matter what. They're kind of like a Karen, you know? They're kind of like a Karen in how they make themselves known, whether you're working on something else, you're too busy, you don't have time for them, they're not important right now. They make themselves known. They will always make themselves known, and you can't escape from them. Even if you try and numb them, you know that while you're scrolling YouTube Shorts, you know you shouldn't be doing it, and you know why you're doing it. If you pay attention, there's a voice in your head that's saying, man, I'm so stressed. I sat down to do my essay for English, and I really want to get this work done, but it's so overwhelming. There's so much to do, so much typing I gotta do, so much work, so much thinking, and I'm so stressed by other things like, social things, trying to find the right friends, trying to find where I fit in college, feeling not good enough at music or my instrument, feeling like I'm behind in all my classes and I won't be able to keep up academically, all these things. And you have all this going on in the back of your mind, and there's a voice that's talking to you about it while you're scrolling YouTube. You scroll to the next short and you're like, man, you look away from the screen for a second or something, and you think to yourself, that voice comes back again, and it's like, I know I shouldn't be scrolling, I know I should be working on my assignment, but just one more reel, it feels so much better than facing the feelings. And you just have to let that sink in for a second, because I don't know if you've had similar feelings, similar thoughts in your head to what I have. This is just my experience. Of course, I don't know what you feel, but since we're all humans, we're all similar. We all have a lot of the same experiences, and feelings are ultimately biological, because, feelings are created by, hormones that we have in our body. The amygdala is a big part of that. I learned that from AP Psychology. See, I could have double majored in psychology if I had the time, right? But, hormones, the amygdala, you've all heard of like dopamine and how dopamine affects our motivation, especially in today's world with all the screens and stuff, and quick hits of dopamine like that. So feelings are biological, which means that as humans, we all have similar biological functions. That means we all have similar feelings. So basically, that long-winded scientific explanation, just to say that I'm sure, we can relate to some of the stuff I'm talking about here together. And it's rough, when you're feeling these feelings, you don't want to. No one really wants to. But the thing is, as hard as they are, because sadly not every feeling that we can feel is joy, that'd be great, but at the same time it'd also not be great. Because, feelings are what makes life worth living. That's my philosophy, and it's also the reason why I got into composing music and why I want to get into film music, game music, media music, all these things. So it's a big part of my life, feelings, and I've been able to weave them into my life philosophy and even my work. And the thing is, feelings make life worth living, because if you don't have, well, not even that. What I'm trying to say is, feelings make us human, alright? Feelings make life what it is. That's why we ultimately do things. There's this whole movement in the past 20 or so years where people want to do what they actually, like, their passions, what they love to do for work. And passions are things that you feel good doing and that you love doing, and love is a feeling. We all want to find love. That's a feeling. We want money because we want to feel comfortable or feel power or feel safe. All these things. Our life is driven by feelings. Even back in the day, cavemen, hunter-gatherer era, we had feelings like we wanted to survive, and so we ran away from the big scary tiger trying to eat us. Or feelings like we want to protect our families, so we'll fight the bear. Or we're hungry. We feel that we're hungry and we want to eat food, and so we go eat. So feelings is what makes life what it is, and they're such an important part to life as a whole. And I haven't done this much talking in a long time. I'm losing my train of thought as I go on, but feelings make life what it is, and it is true what they say. It's kind of a cliche thing. It's you see it a lot all the time on the internet, and you might even hear people use this phrase, but it is true what they say, that without the negative feelings, without the anger, without the sadness, without the crushing loneliness, or the despair, longing, any of this stuff that we don't like to feel, without the envy and the grief, we don't get the joy and the happiness and the pride, being proud of ourselves, accomplishment. We don't get these good things without going through the negative things, because we wouldn't have anything to compare them to, you see? We can't feel good if we don't know what bad is. And so all of this to say that feelings they're probably the number one most important thing in living life, in living a human life, is feeling stuff. And so since feelings are so important, we need to feel them. And even if it's uncomfortable, you feel so much better when you go through your feelings and you feel them instead of numbing them. So, after 33 minutes and 30 seconds, we're going to get to the part of the video where I actually talk about how I got out of numbing my feelings and how I got back into feeling my feelings, and why I'm like 10 times happier over winter break. Probably because I don't have a lot of homework I gotta do, but just feels better. Just feels better after I got back in touch with my feelings. I went on those walks, I talked to myself, all these things. So, getting into... Alright, so we've kind of talked about why we numb our feelings a little bit, but let me go explain this a little bit more. Because it's understanding why we numb our feelings is the first step in understanding how we can stop numbing them and start feeling them again. So, I think that a big reason why we numb our feelings is because, well, there's a few reasons. We don't have the time to feel them, because we're in college, we're working, have a family, we're busy, etc., etc. All very real and important things, but that's one of the reasons, is we're too busy to feel our feelings. Another of the reasons is because they're just too hard. They're too heavy, right? Maybe we lost a family member, or we lost a pet, or we lost our job, or our relationship, or some really heavy things. We lost friends, etc. The heavy stuff is it's usually about loss, or about not having something that we wanted. Maybe we got rejected from that job application, rejected from that, by that person, that girl or something, or that guy. We didn't get that internship in Japan, something really cool, right? And it makes us sad because it's like, crap, am I not good enough? All these fears and self-doubt start filling our head, take hits to our self-esteem, our self-confidence, and it's a lot. So when you encounter really heavy things, you kind of don't really want to feel them, because it doesn't feel good to feel them, But that's kind of where we're not entirely right about that perception, that idea. Our brains, you've probably seen it on all these like self-improvement channels, but our brains were built to protect us. And so, they take a rejection from like a job application or something as kind of like a rejection by the tribe, a rejection of us. And so if we are rejected back in, caveman era, well, we would be dead, because we could not survive on our own. So feeling rejected, being rejected is supposed to bring us this feeling of like fear and like, I don't know, shame or something, so we can try and rectify it and do something about our survival. But the thing is, being rejected for an internship or a job, or by one person out of the 8 billion in the world, nowadays it doesn't really mean anything. And we kind of just have to realize that we kind of need to not listen to our brains at times. We need to be able to understand when they are working for us and when they are working sort of against us. And we need to tell our brains, okay, we're a little misguided here. Let's just put ourselves on the right track. I got Spotify ads. I gotta mute it real quick. So, we've covered a few reasons why we numb our feelings. And now I think we need to get into why feeling them is good for us. I mean, we've kind of covered that, but let's focus more on sorting through our feelings. Let me get a little bit of water here as we're talking about this. Talking a lot makes my mouth dry, and it kind of hurts, but I want to keep talking, so I'm just going to ignore it. That's why I drink the water. So, it's getting warm in here. I'm going to unzip my hoodie. I wore the hoodie because this tank top is a little tight on me, so no peeking. Alright, so in order to get to feeling our feelings, you have to forgive me because my podcasts are typically unscripted, and so they just kind of go all over the place. But I'm trying to connect it to one central topic here. I might make, I could make more structured videos later. I'll probably make podcast clips, and you can find those on my Instagram, YouTube, Shorts, whatever. Even on Spotify clips, you can find them. Because, people like watching short-form content nowadays. Quick, concise bursts of what I'm actually trying to say, rather than all this kind of ranty stuff. But, yeah, this episode, I'm making it to kind of just start something, just get back into the swing of things. And the reason why I started this podcast was because I love talking about stuff. I love talking about life and my thoughts, ideas, and insights into things. And, those come from just me doing this. Like, this is what I would do on those walks outside. Just talking to myself, figuring things out. And so this is a way for me to get back into that. So, how do we start? Well, why is it important to feel our feelings? Why is it important to go through all these things that are messing with our mind and figure them out? Well, it's important because when we process our feelings, when we go and we talk to ourselves about them, talk to a friend, a family member, journal them, we simply feel better. When we process the things that are hurting us inside, when we sit with them and we feel them, that's when we make progress. Because if we keep numbing them, they're always going to be these big, scary monsters, right? If we keep numbing our feelings, every time we turn around, the monster we're fighting is going to be level 99. And we're going to be level 1. But every time we put the phone down, throw it away, we go for a walk, and we start thinking about our feelings, we start processing what actually happened. We start realizing that this thing wasn't as big as we thought it was. In the grand scheme of the world, it's not, this catastrophic event that we got rejected from this job application, or that this person broke up with us, or we broke up with them, etc. We start to realize that in the grand scheme of our life, even, not just the world, but our life, it's not really that big, after all. And we start to see things for what they really are. We start to consider possibilities for why things may have happened the way they did. Things on our part, things on the part of the company that didn't think we were necessarily the right fit for the job. And, we start thinking about things like we go from initially processing and just talking about whatever comes to mind. And we start saying things like, man, that company rejected me. I'm so angry. I feel like they didn't like me or something. I feel like maybe I wasn't good enough. And we just say all these things. Just say them out. Get them out there. And then maybe the second time we go out and we think about it again, because it's still bothering us, we think there's not really any evidence that the company didn't like me. I mean, their email was pretty straightforward. They said they just didn't think I was the right fit for the job. That's totally fine. Who knows? Maybe they could have, the person I was competing against could have had 20 years in the field or something. I don't know. We don't know. And it's not that you necessarily start adopting those ideas, but it's more so that you start considering them. And once these ideas that kind of, you start the processing by saying your feelings out loud, or writing them down, whatever. You're very angry, you're very sad, you're crying, you're yelling, throwing things, punching a wall, whatever you have to do. And you feel them, you really feel them. And you start, man, I hate this, I'm so sad, I'm crying, all this stuff. And then eventually, after you feel them for a long time, your body kind of diffuses everything. And you just feel good. It's kind of counterintuitive, but when you feel all these bad, heavy emotions, afterwards you feel like a weight is actually lifted off your chest, and you sit there, and you feel good. You don't feel an urge to talk anymore, to cry anymore, to be angry anymore. You just sit there and you feel good. And then you just, your mind, it's tired now, and it's kind of done processing the problem, and it's I don't really need to think about anything anymore, anything related to this. I guess I'll go shower, or go to bed or something, or go do some work. Go for a run, or whatever you wanted to do with your time. And so then the next day, or the next time you come back to processing that stuff, you can come at it from a more relaxed point of view, a more maybe logical, rational point of view. Your mind is more open to not just considering what you feel, but other possibilities that may alter how you feel just from you considering them. For example, you don't even have to adopt some of the possibilities we've talked about, if you think that maybe they actually didn't like you, the company didn't like you because of the interview or whatever, and but you considered the possibility that that wasn't the case, well then that opens up your mind to other possibilities and other ways to diffuse the situation. So even if you do think the company didn't actually like you from your interview, you might look at the salary and be like, wait, the salary's kind of low. I actually didn't really need this job anyways. Or you look at other jobs and you're like, hey, these jobs are cool. And you start making these connections in your brain. It's like magic. Like everything just happens really fast. You keep working through it, and eventually your brain makes insights and connections. And it's really exciting because, you look at you look at this new job that you're really interested in and that you like way more than this other job you applied for and got rejected from. You look at this new job and you're like, you're sitting there and your brain just makes a connection. It's just like, you find yourself thinking, hey, if I hadn't been rejected from that old job, I wouldn't have found this new job that I'm really excited about and I can't wait to apply for. Got a little bit of hair on my glasses here. But, your brain just starts making those connections, and it only makes those connections due to the fact that you considered other possibilities. If you didn't expose yourself and start considering these other possibilities, which your brain will actually just naturally do the more time you spend sitting with the feeling, then, if you didn't consider these possibilities, you wouldn't have these new connections and these new opportunities and ultimately new learning, because, life is just a bunch of learning experiences. So that's why it's important to process your feelings, because they become not so big. And you look at them and you can look at them and realize that in the grand scheme of the world and in the grand scheme of my life and in the many years that I have left to live, these feelings and these events that happen to me, they may be big, yes, but they're not that big. And other things will come along and I'll be okay. And then, your brain starts putting pieces of the puzzle together. And this is all natural, by the way. You don't have to be good at it or think, you don't have to research any therapy techniques or psychological information techniques, anything. You can just do it on your own. That's how I did it for so many years until I finally was able to go to therapy when I was 18. Which I'm 18 now. So, I only started going to therapy in these past 3 months. So, I figured out all my feelings and all this stuff just through that method. And it's a natural method. It's not like a trick or you need to be good at it or have actionable steps and follow a plan. You don't. It's just an unstructured thing. I'm just telling you how the structure naturally comes about. I'm like putting structure on it, but it just naturally happens. You naturally cry for like a few days, or you throw things, you sit with the anger for a few days. The important part is that to get to this point of understanding and to get to the point where the feelings aren't as big and you start making connections automatically about new opportunities and ways that this rejection has actually helped you and will be beneficial for your future, to get to that point, you have to sit with your feelings and you have to feel them. But it's important because when you feel them, you actually feel good after, and you feel 1,000,000 times better, no exaggeration, you feel 1,000,000 times better than when you numb your feelings and you scroll or you play video games late into the night and you don't feel them. And you can feel it in chunks, so you don't have to feel it all at once. You can feel your feelings in chunks. You can feel it as long as you want to, or as short as you want to. You can feel it for like 10 minutes or an hour. But I feel my best when it's unstructured. So, that's just me. You can do what you like to do, but just let it happen naturally. Don't be afraid of your feelings because they are you. Your feelings are you. Your feelings are your life. So don't be afraid of them. Just sit with them. And ultimately, they are here to help you, even if you can't really see it in the moment. And I struggle with it too, because, when I'm feeling lonely or sad or angry that, this girl broke up with me or whatever, like she didn't love me how I loved her, all these things, I might not see how, when I'm in those moments, all I want to do is not feel sad. All I want to do is not think about this girl or this situation anymore, whatever. But then I can look back at it 3 months, 6 months from now and be like, oh, going through that has actually helped me learn who I want to be around, who I don't want to be around, and pick my friendships and relationships better to make my life happier in the end. And that's how you do it. And actually, in this section of the video, we've actually talked about why it's important to process your feelings and get closer to understanding them, and how to do that. And I think after 50 minutes and 45 seconds, according to my recording timer up there, it's time to wrap up the video. I think I've given a ton of information in my return to podcasting and making content again, making videos again. And it's been great. I've loved doing this. This is why I started my channel. And I just want to help people, through my experiences, because I think I can. So, I hope this video helped you. Stay tuned, because I might make a little trailer video about the new direction this channel is going to take. I might throw up some educational music theory content, because I want to make composition accessible to everybody, no matter their skill level, experience, opportunities. I just want to help people learn to compose, because there's a lot of videos out there talking about music theory, but no one really talks about it from the ground up. And even if they do, the first word they use is scales. And yes, that's good, but they don't really explain what scales are, or as you get further, how to use them and how to make music using scales and chords and stuff. The way music theory introduction videos usually go is they teach you all this stuff, or they don't go in depth into the things at all, so then you're left without the understanding you need to write music, because ultimately that's kind of what you want music theory for, right? And they kind of make it's kind of like a barrier. They make it seem like you need to learn all this stuff about music before you can start writing. But really, I started writing music before I even knew what chords were. So when I make my videos, I want to introduce people to a topic. Maybe my first topic is scales, or a chord, like C major. And then I'll tell people, just using these chord tones, go into flat.io or MuseScore and just write something. Because writing music is just supposed to be fun. So I'm getting on another rant here, but that's one of the directions my channel will take, is more of a music theory, composition, education format. Then I can share my composition experience and expertise with people. And the other direction will be about life, and kind of similar to this video, because this was a life video, figuring out how we can live our best lives and the lives we truly want to live. So more of a traditional, more modern self-improvement YouTube style. But I don't really want to have any clickbaity titles, and just content that people will listen to or watch but not really learn anything from or do anything with. I want to share my experience and frame it in a way that can help other people, kind of like how I'm doing now. So I hope it worked. I hope it helped. I don't know if you listened to the whole 1 hour of this, but that's okay. As long as you got something out of it, then I'm happy. I'll put short form clips up on all my content spaces, so you can enjoy whatever forms of content you like, and shorter, concise versions of me. But yeah, thank you for listening, and I hope you stick around, because I got big plans for my content and my channels and things, and for me, and I hope you come along for the ride, and I can help you here and there, and you can help me by watching my videos and making me feel good about myself. Seeing high view counts is very nice for my internet dopamine brain. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.